Hey, everybody. I think we are live. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me and see me and all is good. We're good, Lindsay?
I think we're good.
All right. I got Lindsay here with me. I'm still hearing that countdown. Is it perhaps from Lindsay? If you can look here. Right here. Can you just X out of that? Sorry, we are having a little right here. I think it's because we've got the YouTube window open there. There we go. Now we are good. Okay. This is the beauty of running an actual live stream, is that we get to deal with things in the moment. It keeps us sharp and problem solving. It's always good. So anyway, I'm Elle. We are here in the Elle Sci-Fi Book Club for another real-time live stream. This is our first on YouTube. We were on Patreon last month, thanks to everybody who came and discussed the book Neuromancer with us there. That was an amazing chat. We had to move over to YouTube kind of last minute here for this one. And we'll be on YouTube next month as well because, very exciting, we are reading Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. Mandel for our next book in May. And it turns out she is willing to come chat with me for the Science Fiction Book Club. So I'm going to have Emily on. We're going to talk about that. It's really exciting. I've been a longtime admirer, fan of hers, really since I read Station 11 back in 2020. So I cannot wait to speak with her. I have so many questions and thoughts to share with her, and I would love to get her insights as well on one of my favorite books, which is Sea of Tranquility. So we're going to read that. You guys should make sure and send in your thoughts and questions. I'd love to have like kind of a list ready to go. You can do that on Patreon and Discord. So that's going to be awesome. Can't wait. I can see the chat. It looks like everybody can hear and see me, so that's good. So let us bring Grace on now. I think she should be here. Do we have her?
Says on air, so hopefully that
Perfect.
is very exciting.
Yeah.
So we got Grace. Lindsay's here too. Say hi, Lindsay. Can everybody hear her?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I think you guys can hear her better this time because we gave her own microphone. So hopefully that's working out. Okay, so yeah, hi Grace, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm loving the what is that? A stormtrooper?
Yes. This is my. Although we are not reading space opera, I am representing space opera in my shirt.
Freeze, Rebel Scum. That's a nice shirt.
Yeah. Do you want to reveal what you asked me earlier? Yes.
So when we were setting up the stream, I was like, "Love the shirt," and then Grace is like, "Yeah," and you know who gave it to me? I was like, "Who?" Apparently, it was me.
Like, you several years ago. You saw it at Target. It was like the height of the pandemic. But of course, like, to be fair to you, who can really remember everything that happened in the height of the pandemic?
That was a blur. I remember reading Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel and not much else. So I think I drank champagne on a beach. There were a couple little moments I remember, but that was a huge blur.
Yeah, we all need remem, I guess.
We need remem, yes.
That's what we
Which
need.
brings us to Ted Chiang.
Yes.
What an amazing collection. I have been so excited to read this. It's been on my TBR list forever, really since I read his first collection, Stories of Your Life and Others, which famously, Arrival was adapted from one of those stories, Story of Your Life. I just love Ted Chiang for so many reasons. I think he's one of the best out there doing it, to ever really have done it, writing in the science fiction space. And I'm so happy that we're getting to discuss him today. What were your general thoughts, Grace?
Well, it's interesting. It is rare, I think, to find an author who is focused on the medium of the short story that seems to be what he's doing, right? This is like, he doesn't have very many works at all, very, very small number of works, and to pick that as the main medium is interesting to me.
Yeah, I think his fans, me included, are all wishing that there was more of his body of work. We have so precious few stories from him. It's really just these two collections, Exhalation being the second one. And like you said, I think it's so interesting. He's such a careful writer. He's so conscientious. He's so versed in, like, you can tell he's a polymath. He knows so much about linguistics and philosophy and physics and mathematics. And he has an amazing ability to distill really big concepts in such poignant short forms, like a short story or a novella. And I think it totally makes sense in a way that he's a short story writer, because it almost feels has that same sort of distilled wisdom that you get from like a poem. Sometimes it's like having these like hard parameters makes it more impactful. And so his stories kind of read to me like poems, in fiction.
Right. I think there's often a aesthetic preference for longer forms of art, but there are people who are famously concise. And so if I can make a musical comparison, and now you can't cut any of my classical music comparisons
Now that
'cause we're live.
Now that we're live, there were a
told
few
you-
times when we were editing these that Grace expounded for a while. On
That makes it
classical
sound like I was like going on and on, but you can think of like Anton Webern, who is a student of Arnold Schoenberg. You can play all of his mature works in about 4 hours.
Wow.
All of his mature works shorter than the length of, say, a Wagner opera. That doesn't mean they're any less profound. Sometimes people have mastered the art of concision, and I think for Ted Chiang, like they're incredibly pithy. There's like no fluff. There's no flab. It's all everything is very carefully chosen. Even him in his story notes, he's so concise, and it packs a punch with every sentence. It's interesting.
It's true. And Grosny in the, I don't know if I'm saying that right, in the chat is like, she's a music prof. And that's true. You're a music professor. So you're allowed some
I was so concise.
Oh,
in
you were
my
so
addressing
concise.
of the concision.
Yeah. It was very meta. You were very concise on that, comment. But yeah, so I think it's a pleasure to read a short story collection. Also, we've only done novels so far in this book club, so it was kind of a nice change of pace. I felt like the lengths of each story. You had a couple like novellas in here, and then a couple really, really, really short. One extremely short, almost like nanofiction piece. Or microfiction. I don't know all the delineations of the different types of short fiction, but yeah, it was a really nice sort of change of pace, and now I feel like it's almost a little bit harder to talk about it in terms of one work. So I feel like the way to maybe do it is we can kind of just talk about all the short stories, maybe in sequence, briefly, and I think some of them are going to warrant maybe a little bit more of a discussion than others. I think there are some that are just, they kind of speak for themselves, and maybe we have a couple of thoughts, but we could be here all day talking through all these stories because there's so much there. But I feel like
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm struck by it's interesting that, like you were saying, there are shorter and longer stories. We're getting, as you say, some of these are more like novellas, and some of these are just these tiny little things. But perhaps uniting them is this idea. It's like each one of these seems like a thought experiment. And
Yes.
I've been reading for another context about science fiction, and there's different people define it differently. And some people really say in order to count as science fiction, it should be literary. We can think of what that might mean. This, I think, would certainly qualify, but then and also under the strictest definition should explore a scientific concept. And I think Ted Chiang, you can, every single story, he's experimenting with a very specific concept, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, he has such an interesting blend of, you talk about like hard sci-fi where the science is really rigorously explained and thought out. And I would say like he has elements of that, because you always get a sense in almost every story I've ever read by him, you get a real sense that he's thought through like the mechanics of the world and, the physics of the world, maybe the mathematics and logic of the world. And you never feel like, oh, how would that have really worked? And it all has like an interior logic that makes sense. So in some ways it makes it sort of hard sci-fi, but then it doesn't have, it goes beyond, because it has these sort of, like you said, literary elements. Like he's doing some really interesting philosophical work in these stories. And I would say even